Hey everybody, Matter here, and welcome to part 12 of my Great Ace Attorney Chronicles Let's Play. In this episode, we are going to be beginning the fourth trial, and I am very excited. I'm always happy to do the trial aspects, and now we know a little bit more about this case than we did with the last one, but still there's a lot of things that we don't know, things that I'm sure are going to come out during the course of, interrogating the witnesses and whatnot. And I have a feeling that there's going to be some returning guests, aka Sholmes might come back. Hopefully he'll take the stand, which would be hilarious to see Sholmes and Ryunosuke back and forth on the stand. But yeah, let's go ahead, let's jump into the fourth trial and let's see what happens. Well, I never expected this. Who'd have thought we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain, with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Trial by fire, as it were, like, my goodness, talking about just being thrown into the lake and expecting to swim. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Ah, Mr. Natsume, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. They look no different than usual. Oh, maybe a little bit more red. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I've heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now, I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. It's like, I don't really have a choice. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors in the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Yes? I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Oh, neither did I. It's because the, what's his name? The Reaper of the Bailey is here. He's like a superstar. Do you know why that might be, Miss Susato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. Or maybe it's because Sholmes is going to be here and everybody wants to see Sholmes. So that all-knowing look in your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Van Zieks. Is that right, Miss Susato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Van Zieks is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey. He stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't he? The trial 2 days ago marked Lord Van Zieks' return to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. Ugh, what a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. But we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? Wait. Attempted murder. Right? That's the question the papers are asking, and they're all speculating various answers. Okay, now I'm gonna check the court record here. Be like, she didn't die, right? I don't think so. Uh... Yeah, attempted murder, exactly. Do we actually have any... We don't have any actual, we don't have any information on the actual victim too much, do we? Like, she's not even here. I assume that's going to be brought up in court. Oh wait, I want to see, what did that say about Sholmes? Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. They're having a very serious discussion. There's not a person in the world who hasn't heard of this famous great detective. Not a person except me. Hey, Herlock, he's almost my age. He's not too young. I might have a chance. Mundane? Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I meant no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of this infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention. But there's another blatant similarity with the trial of 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Uh-oh. It's you. Oh, right. I was like, what? Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times, it is you who stands against this legendary prosecutor. Maybe... Maybe there was going to be a setup. He was expecting Kazuma. Maybe there was some sort of, like, maybe that's why, but then I showed up instead. Because Kazuma said he was coming to try and change the law system or something. He was trying to make changes. Whether it's because of Van Zeeks, I don't know, but yeah, like, maybe I was an unexpected piece in this game, you know, and then just went along with it. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper. Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. But then they'd have to assume that, like, this whole thing was set up like Kazuma. If he was to appear, Kazuma would be the one to show up in London and then immediately be put on the trial for Magilda. That seems a little bit... And then Zeeks would be the prosecutor. That seems a little bit too convenient, if... I don't know. I feel like whoever the... Let me look at the name again. Sorry, guys. What's the name of, like, the Chief Justice or whatever? I feel like he's behind this. Maybe Kazuma was doing, like, he was going to find out more information about this. Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice. This guy, I mean, this guy has villain written all over him. Look at this dude. Look at this dude. I'm guessing Kazuma was coming. Something to do with him. This guy seems like he's behind some of this stuff. Or maybe he's corrupt or something. And Kazuma was trying to bring him down. I'm afraid that there's really only one other explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. That's a great thing for your lawyer to have, is bad luck. I'm sure Natsume loves that. Thanks for that. Oh, this is just my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such a frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true, I'm just a student, new to London, with little in the way of experience or skills, or luck. But I promise you this. I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe in you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locum assistant, Miss Mikotaba Esquires? I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this great kindness for as long as I live. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is about to begin. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once. All right then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go. Yeah. Yes! This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believed in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Given, like, the whole channeling spirits from the original Ace Attorney, I wouldn't be surprised if at one point Kazuma somehow got channeled into his sword and started talking to Ryunosuke and giving him advice when he's at his lowest. I would love that. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. Oh, he was... For a second, I'm like, oh, look at him. He's more confident, but then he's doing that weird eye thing again. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Yet I beat you. Even though my client was probably guilty. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Okay. For the British, someone from the British Empire to describe somebody as arrogant is hilarious. Especially, like, back then when they're talking about, like other cultures, like, oh, you're so quaint and cute. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark, trial it was, too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted and his unfortunate, violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fettle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? Alright, let's see the new jury here. Oh, hey! Will! A familiar face. You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for Bruce Fairplay, right? That was his name? Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Hey, and there's the hat maker. Oh well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that mustache... Wait a minute, having her on... Okay, she is not an impartial jury member at all. Especially because I feel like her husband... I don't think he's guilty of anything, but I feel like they're definitely hiding something. I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did it anyway. Eh? Sorry? Didn't quite catch that. Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Van Zieks. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from that same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmest of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, this student is accused of a most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime, I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst. Bloody oath they are. Just look at that sallow expression, or complexion and short stature. He's one of those dreadful Japanese... Wow, straight up fucking racist over here. Come on, let's get this over with. With me now, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Eh? Sorry? Didn't quite catch that. Pray, forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hallowed chalice here in this great chamber. Already, like, I'm sure some of them are going to be just a little bit xenophobic and be like, oh, the foreigner did it, so therefore, like, he's automatically guilty because he's not British, you know, he's from somewhere else, he's not one of us. So already we're at a disadvantage. Plus the fact that apparently a police officer saw him running away from the scene, and he was the only one apparently nearby, does not look good for us. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Every time I see this guy, I want fish and chips. They look so good. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court, Inspector? The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector. Thought to be. Yes, having been stabbed in the back by her attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? They don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose. I see. But her life is not in danger. Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at this street map. Okay, I know very, very, very little about, like the body, but I don't know, it seems weird for someone to, like, be stabbed and go comatose. Like, I would see that from, like, a head injury or something. Like, you hit your head, you fall into a coma. But being stabbed by a knife? I don't know. Like, if you hit the wrong spot in the back, I could see you're being paralyzed, like hit the spinal cord or something. But anyway, I will stop. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road, a wide thoroughfare for horse-drawn vehicles. Maybe she was poisoned! We gotta put poison in here somehow. It had not long since stopped snowing as the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. How convenient. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. Okay, a file containing an overview of the case and details about the victim. She was found with a knife in her back and is currently in hospital, yet to regain consciousness. What of the weapon that was used? Let's see. Is there any more details than that, or is that literally it? Oh, here we go. Details. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Olive green, female, stout built, early 20s. Okay, reporting officer Rolly Beats. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from a single stab wound from the large knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested the following day. Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab the poor woman. Even the scragged-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife, I'd say. Rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we can tell by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I see. Well, in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment towards the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, didn't appear to go out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim.
Yes!
If theft and grievance have been ruled out as the motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way.
Objection!
Such a He just wastes so much wine. Pray forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hallowed bouquet. For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nibonese student. Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually light fog. Visibility was reasonably good. There was no one else about but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought. He was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord. I have a photograph here of the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take that photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat, denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, Forgive me, Lord Van Zieks, but the defendant is not denying everything, as you put it. I love her. She is, like, not even hesitating to put him in his place. What are you doing, Miss Susato? Do go on. Mr. Natsume has admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now that you mention it, when we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had happened. As I was walking along that accursed pavement, I could make out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was. And just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the cold hard slabs of stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there. Are they saying that he left the scene of a crime? But that's the worst he did. So I ran as fast as my legs would carry me back to my accursed lodgings. A green overcoat? Well, that's exactly what the woman in that print is wearing. Oh my, a photographic print in full color. What will the world come up with next? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of a terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing the woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time, just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that the accused concedes. Ugh. Huh, I was just realizing, was the last, have any of the other pictures been in color? I know for sure that the first photograph, in the first trial, that was black and white. But this one is in color, which is interesting. It seems this cross-examination could prove to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Nothing for it. I have to use this cross-examination to turn the tables here. It's our only chance.
Hold it!
A light fog, you say? Well, light for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. Not much farther, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I'd expect a Japanese fellow like yourself to know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog. But in my country, people usually imagine that gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. Tuh, how quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day, I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Ugh, Susato-san and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with any certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend. Because that is what the witness to this crime has told us. Or witnesses. Ah, yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned the witnesses yesterday, didn't he? That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard. That is correct, ma'am. Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand, should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation on your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by gas streetlights. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Which means we really need to hear those witness statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say this poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition? Comatose, no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes. She's being treated at Bart's. I was hopeful that she'd come round before the trial started so I could take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid. Ugh. Maybe you should start wearing sunglasses to court, if sunglasses exist back then. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume's belongings. I think you'll find it's all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. The 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord. Second-hand books they were. Irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example. He's very clever, isn't he? What do you mean? He's made it extremely hard for you to assert Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have had before we even knew it was there. You mean to say the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. I find the way that the books are placed kind of strange. Like the fact that they're all around the woman and, like, they all landed upright. I don't know. It just, like, it kind of caught, like, I would think if someone ran off in, like, fear, maybe the books would be, like, opened up on the ground. The way that they're all placed in the picture, it seems strange. I could be reading too much into it, but... Alright, those being a number of old books he had bought, he was on his way home from a bookshop, it seems. The defendant apparently visits a second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of Old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked floor to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid. The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodgings is this place here, Bourbon Books. A little place on the corner of Briar Road and Meerschaum Street. As it happens, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. Something like this. I guess could he maybe have also crossed the street right across from Bourbon Books and gone that way? I don't know. Is there a reason he would have... Anyway. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from that particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Okay. Yes, I agree. The most important point the inspector just made being... I'll say the location. The crucial detail in what you've just told the court, Inspector, is the location of the bookshop. I couldn't agree more. So, where is it exactly? Eh? Are you winding me up, Sunshine? I just explained that. I got the map out and everything, used red bloomin' ink, and drew the bloke's route home on it for you. And I distinctly remember seeing you nod along, Counsel. Oh, yes, of course. I must have been so nervous I didn't take it in. Uh-oh. I did a bad thing. Oh no, am I gonna lose something already? The blunder of the day goes to you, my learned friend. No, not yet. The trial's only just begun after all. Okay, let's check the court record. Maybe, was it a... Let's check out the photograph and see. Magnifying glass, which I haven't really been able to use. Like, is there a different name on the books? Maybe it's not from that bookshop? Okay, I guess not. Let's see what else we got here. Ah, there we go. Let's check this out. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Oh, it's your books, not... Okay, it's not... It's the different bookshop. Okay. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court record at this stage. Thank you, Susato. Yes, miss. It went, miss. Sorry, I made a mistake, miss. Oh, I feel like a dum-dum. Inspector, continue with your testimony. No. I know what I have to do now. At least I didn't lose a point for it. Okay, I'll press this even though I'm pretty sure what I need to do here. You asked for the help of the famous detective Herlock Sholmes to locate the defendant, I believe. Stuff and nonsense. Sorry? That Jack in office, that busybody, just comes and sticks his oar in whether we ask him to or not. But according to what I have here, Mr. Sholmes was shown to the scene by Scotland Yard detectives. Well, that was nothing to do with me. The lads at the scene must have done it, without my permission. I tell him time and again, whenever something happens, send word to headquarters, and follow your bloomin' instructions. I see. If that meddler gets his hands on any details, we'll all be reading it in Ranced magazine next month. And you can bet your last farthing that I'll be in there too, stripped of all my hard work on the case. Yes, Mr. Sholmes. No, Mr. Sholmes. Aren't you clever, Mr. Sholmes? That's all the thanks I'll be getting. Inspector, if the man is proving detrimental to the Yard's activities, perhaps I should step in and deal with him. Don't you lay a hand on my boy. Don't you touch that pretty boy. It appears Inspector Gregson is lost for words. Yes, the Reaper's words carry a lot of weight, obviously. Anyway, the point is this, that little Japanese bloke's already admitted it. He's admitted that those books all over the pavement at the scene were the ones he bought that day. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? I mean, I know what I need to do. Alright, Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed. Yes, they're sure to find him guilty. So one way or another, I have to expose an undeniable inconsistency in the inspector's testimony. Now let's pick the right one this time. Inspector Gregson, may I ask you a favor? What? Would you kindly add the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be of vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes, it could be very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being of any great significance. But please revise your testimony accordingly, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Could the man be any more sardonic? And here is where we can actually present some evidence.
Objection.
If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident, and details of the purchase of 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused's room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. There we go, there's that confident slam. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books. Y-O-R-E, I presume. Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. Eh? What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it.
Objection.
But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it.
Objection.
Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
Objection.
I disagree. I mean, after all, I have the street map here, if that might be of help. Oh, yes, thank you. Have a look at this, please. It's going to be on the opposite side, I'm guessing. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take into account the fact he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may very well turn out he wouldn't have passed that location at all. Could that be true? My, it rather depends on where this other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility. Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir, what you just said? Absolutely, it absolutely could be right. Inspector Gregson, where is this Your Books establishment? Well, obviously we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books... Oh, yeah, so he would have no reason to pass by that way at all. Unless he doubled back, he went down Mearsham Street, and then... What? Yeah, so he could still go, because the other way seems like... I don't know. It's just going on the next corner of Mearsham Street, going east. So he could have still passed by that way, but yeah, I don't know how much more of a difference that makes. And there you have it, as you can clearly see now. He's like, oh, that doesn't really help. He's like, I was on a roll there for a bit. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown, the way he regales us, such witticisms. To your future career in the circus. Ugh, you put that glass down now, or I'll put it down for you. Oh god, Susato. I didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming home from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books... Yeah, I still would have taken the same way. There's no doubt he still would have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. And it makes sense because he said he saw it actually go down. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Ugh. Allow me to reiterate for my learned, if somewhat slow, Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchased his musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try. What did I say, eh? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that? Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution's assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Mr. Natsume is guilty. She's absolutely right. We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully. They claim Suzeki-san must have passed the location of the incident on his way home from your books, but I'ma raise an injection. The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. I gotta come up with something on the fly here because I don't know where he's going with this. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean on this map. When returning from your books to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, you could go that way too. It seems a little bit longer? Maybe? If the defendant used these streets, look what happens. But he did say that... but Natsume himself said that he tried to pass by her and then she screamed and dropped, so I don't know if that's really going to help. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what is to be commonly referred to as the long way round. Ah. Well, what if... so maybe he was taking the scenic route, I don't know. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. He wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodgings and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. But, aha, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. Oh no. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home. I don't believe this. I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest we do not waste any more of the court's time by wandering aimlessly around the subject. Pray, what say you, insightful jurors? But even if that is the case, the defense still... Oh. I agree with Lord Van Zieks. Oh, I'm gonna have to, hopefully, maybe I can appeal to the jury again, wholeheartedly and in every way. What? I don't believe it. Does this mean? Also, Bruce might have a little bit of a grudge against me after I put him through the ringer in the last trial. We members of the jury are completely convinced now. Well, that ended quickly. Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Alright.
Guilty.
I will have to talk to them.
Guilty.
Guilty!
Well.
Guilty! Guilty!
Game over? It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous. But apparently unlike modern things, it's like, even if the jury puts in their verdicts, I can still somehow turn it around and make them change their mind. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably. Mr. Naruhodo. No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury. I have to tip the balance of those scales the other way. I have to turn this around. Somehow. Those are the eyes of Quarry, not yet willing to give up and die. So, I presume you intend to wield your rights again in this trial. Rights of the defense written in antiquated British law that should have been buried long ago. Call it antiquated if you will, but it's the defense's prerogative to carry out a summation examination if it so chooses. Very well, counsel. In accordance with the letter of the law, we shall proceed with the summation examination. Are the members of the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? I like the jury, swaying the jury aspect of this. Pretty fun. Of course we're ready. I'm all too familiar with that Nipponese whippersnapper and his onkus refusal to throw in his alley. Very well then. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will explain on what grounds you have determined the defendant to be guilty. I feel like Bruce should be removed and the other guy, the hat maker, because I know who they are. I feel like that's kind of tipped in the prosecution's favor, that they might be still sore about what happened. For pity's sake, that little Nipponese oddity already admitted it himself, didn't he? If he said that a woman in green collapsed before his eyes, why, it can only have been the victim. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. Not in winter. So the poor woman was attacked from behind, was she? How dreadful. I really don't care. Can't we just wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing. Your books, yes. Nice shop that. But bourbon books? No, not worth a visit. Okay. I feel like there's a couple I could press here. Like, what are the odds that maybe someone that he saw in a green jacket who collapsed was a completely different person? Probably not very likely, but With only minor exceptions, the reasons for finding the defendant guilty are all too clear. When the stabbing occurred, the only two people at the scene were the victim and the accused. And the accused himself has admitted to seeing the victim in her green overcoat sink to the ground before his eyes. Furthermore, we have heard from the inspector that the defendant then fled the scene. I must say, I would have ample grounds to convict this man already. Oh dear, even the judge appears convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt now. Ugh, why did he have to run away like that? And how are we supposed to believe in some phantom attacker that nobody could see? This is impossible. How can I possibly make a case for the defense? Mr. Naruhodo, this is no time for grumbling. We want to force the trial to continue. Yes, I know. I have to turn the tide. I must make the jurors change their mind. Well, 4 of them at least. Exactly. We have no choice but to forge forward. You have the floor, counsel. Begin your summation examination. Yes, my lord. I just need to keep this trial going somehow, whatever it takes. Come on, Ryunosuke, you can do it. Oh, that's right. I can press or pit. Right. All right, well, I'm going to press everybody like I always do. Get some more... Excuse me, but aren't you... Yes, that's right. I was in the witness stand myself just 2 days ago. Maybe I could argue that he shouldn't be here. He's tainted because he doesn't like me. Yes, I had a feeling I knew your face. Or the side of it, anyway. If I remember correctly, you're a banker, aren't you? That's right. After the gold rush down under, I came back to London to work. And it was all going swimmingly until you started fossicking about. Bruce Fairplay was a man of repute. Sorry? Don't think I've forgotten how you treated me the other day. Judge, are you hearing this? He clearly has a grudge against me. You had me and that young hatter pegged as criminals. Oh, well, you know, water under the bridge. Now, there's all sorts of rumors buzzing around, and the police have been badgering me non-stop. If I could turn back the clock. Well, anyway, I don't know about the Hatter, but at least I'm in the clear now. And free to make up my own mind about who's guilty and who isn't. Thank goodness. Alright, maybe I might struggle to change this man's mind, given our awkward history. Oh dear, I wonder what's become of Mr. First now. Well, he's here too.
Hold it!
Now here's the thing I was talking about, like, you're right that at the time of the incident, the defendant admits to having seen someone wearing a green overcoat walking ahead of him. Well, quite. That's precisely my point. So what are the odds that he took the other way around, saw someone else in a green overcoat, but then again, all the books were collapsed around the victim, so that kind of throws that out. Clearly, that someone wearing green was the victim. And clearly, that funny little Nipponese man with the disturbing mustache is the culprit. But let us not forget, madam, the defendant vehemently denies attacking the woman. Why, of course he does. If he admits to stabbing her, his life is over. The man is obviously a liver-faced coward, honestly, claiming the woman simply collapsed before his eyes. Maybe she did collapse, and maybe someone ran over and stuck a knife in her afterwards? I don't know. But if that's a lie, as you're suggesting, do you not think he would have concocted something more credible? Oh, I really couldn't say. After all, you are foreign. Who's to say what goes through your funny little minds? Damn this woman! I could tell you what's going through my funny little mind right now, but you wouldn't like it. I do declare the man has already made the admission. He himself has stated there was nobody else around. Surely the conclusion is obvious. No one else could possibly have committed this awful crime. If no one else could have done it, the accused must be the man. Really, it couldn't be more simple. Your argument is compelling in its simplicity, I must admit. Oh my, you are too kind, my lord. That went well, for her. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter.
Hold it!
But you can't deny that there are other routes Mr. Natsume could have taken back from your books. Oh, yes, like you drew on the map, you mean. What was it? Calabash Road or something? Precisely. But it seems to me that what counts is whether the little Japanese fellow actually went that way or not. Well, yes, that's true. And at the moment, there's no proof that shows he did, is there? Well, yes, that's true as well. I just like he's getting more deflated as he talks. And as I understand it, the accused himself doesn't remember which way he went, does he? Well, yes, that's annoyingly true. Winter nights are dark and cold, so the way I see it, you'd want to get home as quickly as possible. Well, not if your home is, we'll say his place is cozy, but, at the same time, I'm just like, his place isn't really anything special to come back to. The fact that he says get home is highlighted, I wonder. Well, yes. Why is all this true? Maybe there was somewhere else he was gonna go before he got spooked and ran home. So really, the only thing that makes sense is that he went home along Briar Road. I'm supposed to be convincing you here. I have given it a lot of thought, you know. I didn't just make up my mind on a whim that he did it. I mean, if there was some logical reason why he might have gone the Calabash Road, it'd be different. Like I said, maybe he was planning on going somewhere else, too. I'd be happy to reconsider my position in that case. Honest, I would. A reason why Suzuki-san might have taken the longer way home. Yes, a good reason. I don't imagine you'll be able to sway this young man's opinion without one. So the poor woman was attacked from behind. Okay.
Hold it!
Or maybe she was attacked from the front and Natsume didn't, because she screamed. Apparently she screamed and dropped to the floor, but if Natsume didn't stab her and there's no one else around, maybe someone attacked her from the front? and then maybe stuck the knife in her back after he had run off? Or she fainted, maybe? Maybe. Yeah, maybe she fell and concussed herself. Something scared her, and then someone stuck a knife in her back for some reason. Whatever is the matter, young man? You're the wife of Mr. Garradeb, aren't you? The landlord who rents Mr. Natsume his room. The master's wife? Where do you get your ideas, sir? I'm the maid. The maid, you understand. She's keeping up that charade? This is going to be awkward. Yeah, also, the thing is, if the jury members should have absolutely no connection to the victim or the accused at all. They did a horrible job choosing the jury. Why didn't you mention this yesterday? That you'd been selected for the jury in this trial, I mean. Well, I was told not to mention it to anyone until the day of the trial, you see. It was in the letter I received. The instructions were very clear, so I'm afraid I had no choice. I see. Anyway, Mr. Natsume, the defendant, takes lodging in your master's house, doesn't he? Yes, that's right. Although he's only been in a little over a week now. And in that time, surely you must have taken stock of his character. Does Mr. Natsume look like the kind of man who would commit a crime such as this? Oh my goodness me, yes, he's just the sort. What? Ryunosuke, you know, she said that earlier. I was like, that's a pretty bold thing for you to ask. She was going on and on about how suspicious he was. Spending all his time in that dark and dingy room, sporting that unscrupulous mustache. The man never speaks, and don't get me started on those shifty eyes. All the neighbors are talking about him. I've heard them, you know. People think he must be building a bomb in there or something. What we've learned from all this is he should really shave that mustache. Oh dear, poor Mr. Natsume. How could people say such things about him? He's just a harmless bookworm. Nothing more. Well, you just called him a worm, so... Anyway, I'd better be careful about inviting this maid to speak. She said enough damning things already. Alright, I really don't care. Can't we wrap this up now? I've got work to be doing.
Hold it!
A man's life is on the line here, sir. This will take as long as it takes. Don't get clever with me now, son. My life's on the line too, and so is my family's. Ah. The likes of you wouldn't understand, but a laborer like me can't afford to take time off. If I don't work, I don't eat, and neither do the wife and kids. Oh, I see. That must be very hard. I go to the union every morning to find out what needs doing. If you're late and the work's taken, it's tough. This time of year, there's water and gas supply pipes bursting left, right, and center. They're after cheap labor to get the roads dug up to fix it. It's a hard slog from dawn to dusk, it is. So, you were out digging up the roads on the day of the incident as well, were you? That's right. In fact, if I remember rightly, it was just round the corner from where it all happened. By that old bookshop it was. What? Another coincidence. That's right. Mearsham Street it was. Mearsham Street. On the map, Mr. Naruhodo, there are only 3 named streets. Juror number 5, I need you to add that information to your formal statement, please. Oh! Oh! That's the whole thing, where the other juror was like, if you can find a reason why he wouldn't take that way. There we go, it's because they were digging up the street. What's the point of that? Can't we just get this business over with now? Please, sir, it's important. Fine, I'll do it then. Well, look at the year. That was a good coincidence. On the day it happened, I was digging up Mearsham Street from dawn till dusk. Can I press that as well? So, if I understand correctly, you're a day laborer and you were doing road maintenance that day. That's right. Like I said, you get a lot of burst gas and water pipes underground in the middle of winter. It's the only time of year fellows like me can actually make a few bob, and I'm missing out today. And, when you say from dusk till dawn, or dawn till dusk, well, the work has to be completed within the day, see? No coaches or pedestrians can pass while it's happening. Oh! Well, there we go. That's something too. I wonder if I could trouble you, sir, to mark on the street map the exact location of the works you are carrying out. Give it here, then. Let me have a look. Right. Let's see, then. Oh, there we go. Perfect. He'd have no way to go back down Briar Road because it'd be blocked off. Awesome. Thank you, buddy. It was a tidy dig, I can tell you. We had to get through all the drifts of snow that had frozen solid. And at what sort of time did you finish the work? Well, we started in the morning, and we can't have finished before gone 6, and it happened at 5. Perfect. The snow had stopped coming down, but it was long past dark for sure. That means the roadwork was still going on when Miss Green was attacked around 5 o'clock. Roadworks on Mearsham Street, huh? Yes, there we go. I mean, we'll press this guy, but I think I know exactly who to pit against each other. Hmm? Sorry? Fold it, you say? Fold what? No. What I said was hold it. What I wanted to ask was, do you visit your books often? I like the old books they have in there, yes. I enjoy reading them over a nice cup of old tea. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day, including the day you're all talking about. Oh, so maybe he saw him. And at what time did you visit your books on the day in question? Well, I was picking out books in there all afternoon, and it would have been just before 5 that I left. That's my daily routine, you see. Same thing every day. Oh, maybe he saw Natsume leave and see where he went. Just before 5, you say, exactly when the victim was attacked. Are you sure about the time? Oh, yes, no mistake there. I remember it well. I'm not about to forget that day in a hurry. Not after the dreadful time I had. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, maybe I was wrong about this guy not giving us much information. Well, I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped. Oh my god, the green overcoat! The green overcoat! He saw him fall! And he's even wearing a brown hat like the woman. I was walking down Calabash Road when I slipped on the ice and donked my head. It's always worse after the snow stopped falling. That's when it's most slippery. Knocked myself clean out, I did. I really thought my number was up. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. This happened on Calabash Road. That's right. I live in Cornpipe, you see. Heading down Calabash Road is the quickest way for me to get back from your books. Juror number 6, I must insist. Now you add that information to your formal statement. It may very well be extremely significant. Hmm? Sorry? Extremely sick? No, I'm quite alright now. It sends a shiver down my spine to hear the members of the jury so convinced of Mr. Natsume's guilt. Oh, but I can pit him against the woman who said the green overcoat, right? So I can pit... There's a couple of people I feel like I could pit against each other here, but I can't help feel that some of their opinions are rather subjective. I agree. It's the irrelevance of what some of them are saying that sends a shiver down my spine. Still, at least some of their assertions don't actually incriminate Mr. Natsume of anything. That's something. We must use that to our advantage, Mr. Naruhodo. Cunningly. Yes, you're right. Let's listen to the jurors again, carefully. Okay, so this is what we want to do. So we want to pit her against you, right?
Objection.
Yeah. Those two statements clearly show a flaw in the juror's reasoning. A flaw? What are you talking about, counsel? Well, juror number 2? Juror number 6? My, whatever do you mean? Oh no, this doesn't sound like I got it. Whatever do you mean, sir? Oh no, I think perhaps the old man didn't hear you. Unbelievable. It's not like I was loud or anything. There's at least one fact of which we can be sure here. Okay, the bookshop receipt found in the defendant's room clearly indicates that on the day of the attack, he had been to your books and purchased a number of secondhand titles. Oh, I should have pressed the other one about the construction. I was so focused on the green coats and the woman saying it could only be the victim. But the man says he had no recollection of his return journey. That's correct. But what he does remember is seeing someone... Okay. So I did get this right. I was a little unsure there. What he does remember is seeing someone appear in front of him on the way. Someone in a green overcoat who suddenly collapsed on the pavement before his eyes. Yes, we are all well aware of this. The poor young woman who was stabbed, obviously.
Objection.
I wonder if I could have done the thing about the construction work on the road, if I could have had 2 potential ones I could have done. Can we really be sure of that, madam? My, whatever do you mean? I'm sure you heard juror number 6's account of what happened to him that day. That same afternoon, there was somebody else apart from the victim, who was wearing a green overcoat and who fell over on the icy streets in the neighborhood. Oh my. My goodness, you mean... That's right. I'm referring, of course, to the hard of hearing juror number 6. Are you really suggesting that the person in the green overcoat, whom the defendant saw collapse in front of his eyes, was the jolly old gentleman at the end of the bench here with me today? What are the odds of that, eh? What would have happened if we hadn't had... Well, I mean, I guess if we hadn't had that juror, then we could have had the... But then what if we hadn't had the guy working the construction on the street? It worked out a little bit too well. That is entirely possible, yes. I was ragging on how they didn't vet the jurors very well, but in this case it worked out for us. After all, the old man has a somewhat similar build to the victim. Well, look at that. My goodness me. Sorry? You need a pee? And crucially, we know precisely where the old man in the green overcoat fell. On Calabash Road. Therefore, if the person whom Mr. Natsume saw collapsing in front of him was in fact juror number 6, it means the defendant must have taken the long route back to his lodgings. And if that's true, then clearly the crime scene on Briar Road where the woman was stabbed was not on his way home. Okay, so if that's true, does that mean that the police officer who saw this, was he lying or was he mistaken? We gotta figure that out. You idiot old man, if you hadn't been so daft as to be roaming about there, we'd have boxed this off hours ago. Oh, love that. Like, I get it. He's a worker. He's got to provide for his family. But, like, we could just put this, you know, innocent man away, potential innocent man away, if it means that I get to go back to work. And really, what were you thinking wearing such a befuddling coat? Wow, they're all mad at him. What did you say to me? Is it a crime for the elderly to walk the streets these days, Is it a crime to slip over on the ice? Is it a crime to keep up with the latest styles and wear a beautiful green overcoat? Is it? My lord, I do hope it won't cause any inconvenience, but... You'd like to change your leaning, I presume. Yes. I do declare that I would. I should like to call for a verdict of not guilty. Thank you. And I would too. What? Is it a crime to change your mind? Is it? Well, I'm waiting for the old man to actually be like, is it a crime to, like, steal food from the store? And then the judge would be like, actually, yes, that is a crime. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. That was wonderful. Now I just have to do... Probably I'm going to have to do more, because I need to get more than 2 people on my side. So, now it's time to call out the construction work, just to really cement the fact that Natsume couldn't have been on the road where the stabbing happened. Well, we've managed to change a couple of minds at least. It strengthened our position somewhat. Yes, and it will prompt the other members of the jury to reconsider their stance as well. They'll be asking themselves if their current leanings are really right or not. Now, if we could just identify one more clue. Don't worry, Susato, I got it. I got it. I love that feeling of, like, I know exactly what I need to do. We might be able to tip the balance completely. Yes, that's exactly what we've got to do. Van Zieks is looking to bring this trial to an early conclusion. That's what we have to prevent, by whatever means we have at our disposal. Thank you, Counsel. On with the summation examination, please. Yes, my lord. Okay. Around the house is on his way back from the bookshop, not in winter. Okay, so there's that one. So I think it's the hat guy, the hat maker. You changed 2 of the jurors' minds, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, just 2 more to go. Deliver the finishing blow now. It's time to turn the tables. Wish I knew how to do a Susato takedown. I suppose words will have to suffice for now. Let's hope that the end of the game involves her teaching him how to do it. Okay, so this is the one here. So we are going to pit you against you.
Objection!
Those two statements are clearly at odds with one another. At odds, counsel. Explain yourself. Please, don't point. It wasn't me, I swear. Eh? What? I just want to get this done and dusted. Well, juror number 3? Oh, me, sir? What do you mean? Juror number 5's words just now are extremely significant. Let's take a moment to consider the implications of what's been said on our map of the local area. On the day in question, Mr. Natsume visited this bookshop to purchase a number of secondhand books. And on the same day, we now know that there were works being carried out on Meerschaum Street, making it impassable. Which means the defendant's route home could not have taken him along Meerschaum Street and down Briar Road. Oh, yes, of course. What do you think, sir? Well, yes, you can't argue with that really, can you? We must have had a good 2 yards or more of the pavement up. Every gentleman and gentlewoman that came along had to turn back and go the other way. So, the only conclusion is this. The defendant must have taken the longer route back to his lodgings. Yes, I suppose he must have. I suppose that must be right, eh? Juror number 3, you said the following. The man wouldn't have gone around the houses on his way back from the bookshop. But we see now that he had no choice. Yes. My lord, Mr. Judge, sir, if I may? Yes? I don't think in all good conscience that I can say the man's guilty now. Well, I mean, he was right. He did say he just needs good evidence and he would change his mind, and he's doing it. Now, let's hope the other guy will be a little bit more like, he definitely seems like, I just want to get this done. Like, he better agree to change his verdict too. Yes, I'd like to see this trial continue so we can get to the bottom of what really happened. What about you, sir? Eh? Who? Me? Well, alright then. If there's a hole in the prosecution's argument, it should be filled in. That's what I say. Well, good. I'm glad he didn't put up too much of a fight about it. Well, that summation examination has concluded with a rather large shift in opinion. The eyes, 2. The nose, 4. So the nose have it. Not guilty, they say. Which means we no longer have a consensus among the members of the jury. The trial will continue.
Objection!
I'm waiting for him to throw that chalice in my face like poor Nick would have happen, where he'd get stuff thrown at his face all the time. Could it seem churlish of me to drink from my hallowed chalice moments after raising an objection? Only to crush it in disgust? Pray forgive the discourtesy. Lord Van Zieks? It seems I must retract my earlier remark. What do you mean? I mistakenly credited those jurors with intelligence by describing them as insane. You did that last time. You said the same thing about, like, oh, this is stupid. This whole thing is stupid because, like, basically people are stupid and they are easily swayed. Stop negging the jurors, my dude. Yet, we have just witnessed them falling for a cheap trick performed by an Eastern entertainer. Eh? Whatever do you mean?
Objection!
I haven't tricked anyone. Everything I've said is the truth. Indeed. Stalwart juror number 5 was undoubtedly repairing the road as he claims. I believe you said it was a good 2 yards of the pavement which you had excavated, sir. That's right. It took me the whole day, and they paid me a measly tuppence for it. Now, my learned Nippides friend, tell me, do you have any notion of the distance that 2 yards represents? Well, if I'm honest, I don't have a clue. 2 yards is a little less than 2 meters. Less than 2 meters. That's not much at all. In other words, a distance readily vaulted by anyone of moderate vigor. Would you not agree, my stalwart friend? Eh? Me? Well, I can't say you're wrong, no. What? And did you perchance erect a sign to prevent pedestrians from passing the site of your works? I wouldn't dream of it. What a waste of time. No coaches would have had a hope of passing anyway, and we just turned any gentlefolk back when they came. Kids just jump right over us all the time. The accused is no gentleman, as far as I can see. I have little doubt, however, that he could spring over a 2-yard trench in his meanderings around town. Ah. Is that true? Is it? The incontrovertible truth is that the books just purchased by the accused were found at the scene. There can be no doubt on his way back to his lodgings, Mr. Natsume walked down. Yeah, I guess that's true. The books were around the victim. Ah, damn it. He didn't buy the books at the bookshop, but they were around the victim. Ugh, crushed in a single sentence. And, old man. Cold man? You can talk. You say that around 5 o'clock on the day in question, you slipped and fell on Calabash Road. Pray, was there a suspicious-looking Nipponese behind you at the time? Oh, I can't say as I remember. You don't remember? How about a wager, my learned friend? You say it was this old man that the accused saw, but I would lay 1,000 to 1 against you being able to prove it. Ugh, damn it. He's too good. Order, order! Lord Van Zieks, explain yourself. My lord, if you had such a trenchant argument up your sleeve, why in the world did you not English. Why in the world did you not proffer it during the summation examination? I wanted to give this young foreign student the sightseeing experience he no doubt came for. I wanted him to see for himself how the opinion of the jury is so readily swayed. I guess it can work against us too, ugh. But my hospitality has its limits, and they have been reached, I feel. So, my learned friend, today's sightseeing tour of London is now over. That's him being like, I was just going easy on you. What are you talking about? My lord. The prosecution requests permission to call its next witnesses to the stand. It's going to be the police officer or the wife, I'm guessing. Granted. Bailiff, bring forth the witnesses. It's next witnesses? Mr. Naruhodo, do you not remember? We've been told on several occasions that there were eyewitnesses to the incident. Yes, I remember. One of them being a Scotland Yard policeman, no less. I'm afraid that's likely to be the prosecution's next witness. Alright, no matter who Van Zieks brings to the stand as his witnesses, no matter what they say, I believe in Soseki-san. I know he's innocent. And I'll keep believing to the very end, until this battle is over. Oh, well, they look quite young. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. They look like teenagers. And he looks quite sleepy. Constable royally beat. Saw. Nothing to report on the street, saw. Raleigh beat? I trying to think of the pun there. Rolly beat? I'm probably saying the name wrong. Like, we can trust anything this guy has seen. Oh my goodness. And I'm Mrs. Beats. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say I'm the young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honorable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? Sure, I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that meters are reading true. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights. There are a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet. I'd have collapsed long ago. But it goes without saying a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honor. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly? Constable Rolly Beat, saw? Nothing to report on the streets, saw? What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You'll tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. And meanwhile, she's just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed over there. It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor, then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man at the dock. Rolly and I both saw him clear as day. It's probably Raleigh, I'm guessing. Raleigh sounds more like a name than Rolly. Alright, let's change it to Raleigh. Yeah, sure. Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. Their testimony is true. The alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate bit chancing, and on your wedding anniversary, too. Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however, this cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are testifying under oath that it was without a doubt the accused, Mr. Soseki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less, so you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defense. Commence the cross-examination, please. If she's lying, would there be a reason why she would be lying? Maybe to protect someone else? Maybe she just wants to be... It seems like she's enjoying the attention a little bit. I don't know. When in doubt, just press everything. No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat? Oh, no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you could probably see why children and the elderly can't do their job, can you? I think Rolly... Damn it! I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down the ground, doesn't it, darling? And she's got them wearing matching scarves and everything. This guy is henpacked. What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Raleigh. I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes, I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir. Yes. Although, I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it, as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty to patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail, without a grumble, because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need here to feel safe and secure. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. But sir, just on that particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat put up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. Oh, I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. If a little over the top, perhaps? And then, kindly describe what happened next. Alright, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog in front of us.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes. That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby. Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. Of course. There was a light fog on the ground, but Briar Road is dead straight, and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beats. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day, every day, keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Oh, Pat. Oh, Raleigh. They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed. But they didn't actually see the stab happen, just somebody collapse. Who's to say someone didn't... This is maybe out there. Someone didn't, like, fling a knife from the shadows into the back. I don't know. Scattered something. What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then we got closer, we realized what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Oh, yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see. Old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them, all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed. Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock, without question, sir. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose, everything. Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right. He looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes, and then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now, please continue. Yes, sir. ran straight over and went for help at a nearby police box.
Hold it!
Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. B to go. I was off duty by that point, but a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat, so I told Patricia the way to the police box of the beat the incident fell under, so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we?
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you the fog was only light, didn't he? Yes. And what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, all right, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? What? Ah, yes. It was the accused, and no mistake. The mustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Soseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. All that he's guilty of is being a coward. That's all. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say that they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So, if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no, then what do we do? If Kazuma-sama were here, what are you trying to say? I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion. Ugh, why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course. What is it? Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it. What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one. And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is? Is it going to be that simple? Is she going to get the books wrong? And then I can be like, well, I guess your memory's not as good as you thought. No, it won't do it all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Raleigh will. Raleigh. I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please, put your husband's fist down. Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? So she went from, like, having, like, an almost airtight testimony to now she's gonna add more stuff, and that's probably gonna screw her over. I'm okay with that. I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. Okay. Shoot, I can't look into the court records. Okay, so we'll just press her then.
Hold it!
Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. It seems like she wants to be a cop, and she's kind of living her fantasy through her husband. I am a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it all for Raleigh. She kind of reminds me of, like, a little bit of those, what are they called? Like, military wives? You get a little bit too into it. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard. Don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. So somebody could have come and done something while he was passed out. Well, while she was gone, he was passed out. Something could have happened at the crime scene. Maybe someone stuck the, like, I don't know, maybe the victim fell over. And then after, I'm trying to think if Natsume said that he saw the knife in the back. He said he just saw her fall over. You think he would have noticed the knife in the back? So maybe someone came in after the policeman passed out and stuck the knife in her back afterwards? I don't know. Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I feel like this is where we're going to get her. So let's take a look really quick while it allows me to do this. Let's examine them. And magnifying glass. Okay, it's not actually... Oh, the receipt, right? That would make more sense. So let's see. So let's remember this. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq of meal for Gaboro Canterbury Yearnings. Alright. Either way, I feel like the receipt is going to be where we catch her here. I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was the picture of Monsieur somebody or other, and what's it yearnings? Then there was, a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely the... Oh, she's saying... Hold up. She's saying there's 4. There was only 3 books. The Thingummy something. Huh, there we go. You see? So not just the fact that she couldn't remember the books, but that she says there were 4 books at the scene, but the picture only shows 3. Or not just the picture, the receipt. The receipt only says that 3 were purchased. Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they were all along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? He's gotta know. He's gotta know that she got that wrong, but he's just keeping it to himself. So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Oh, Jesus. Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. Put that gun down, sir. Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So, that's it. Okay. So, let's go back in. And we will, Yeah, there we go. The 4 books he dropped at the scene. So I could present... I could present the receipt. And I could also present the books. I mean the crime scene photograph or the receipt. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and present the receipt.
Objection.
So, you're saying that there were 4 books. That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Thingamese Something. I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But there's a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no, what? What flaw? Simply that at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. That means that there was someone else potentially at the scene of the crime. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But, as you can see, only 3 books are listed. I'm sure that Zeeks will have something to say about that. Only 3, but no, that can't be. Or someone, yeah, took a book away so that they don't, to, like, remove the fact that they were there. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 dirty old books. Oh, really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books. But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it. I saw them. No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. Gah. So, it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. No!
Objection.
I'm sure he'll have an answer for why that's the case, why there were only 3 books. But she says there are 4. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nibanese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene, a fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So, you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? Ugh, he sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect. Oh. Oh. He is buttering her up so much. You see, the matter is not up for debate. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection.
Could maybe the other book be the victims? But what about the photographic print? Is he saying that one of them is behind her body? It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. Oh, we're going to see one from another point of view. That print, you mean to say... Allow me to present another. One that shows the victim's hand, yep. Oh, it's like... What? Like part of it's gone. I don't believe it. It's the 4th book. As you will observe. The 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! Order, order. There, you see? You see? Look at that. Look, look, look. Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please. Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's It Yearnings? Canterbury earrings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gabriel, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Mrs. Beat's power of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Did you hear that, Raleigh? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But, there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Okay, Ryunosuke, come on. She's holding the book. Obviously, it's her book. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutch. Okay, now this is where I've got... If someone falls and is knocked out, they would not be clutching the book. That makes me think someone put the book in her hand after she got knocked out. This is where I'm calling bullshit on that. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book. I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. Alright, I want to look at this book, because it's weird. You will submit that, and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I? You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? I bet she's right. She saw someone fall, the victim fall, and the guy run. But he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury... My guess is someone put the knife in her back afterwards, after she fell, and put that book in her hand for some reason. So perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Uh-oh. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? He's got away with words, I'll give him that. You've all heard of the witnesses, or you have heard all the witnesses, and seen all the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Okay, that's a hint, be like, oh god, I gotta pick the right choice, or I might just auto-lose. Oh god, think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you know now? Should I raise an objection, or should I wait and see? Of course I'm gonna raise an objection.
Objection!
Always, when in doubt, object. I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There's no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... did I do a bad? Should I have waited to see what he said? Oh, I can't think of what to say. This is when Kazuma needs to be channeled through the sword and tell... Just like with Maya. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, Kazuma. Or Susato. Susato, you know everything. Yes, Susato. Hell yeah. Of course she knows what to do. If I may, Lord Van Zieks. It seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial I said it wrong again, judicial assistant, to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. No, Susato, take him down. Go over there and flip his ass. Come on. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. That's right. That's right. You stick up for her. Mr. Naruhodo, get your head in the game, girl. We got this. Come on. One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance. Oh, yes, because... Yes, the Japanese have been shown so much tolerance since they've arrived. Jesus. All these people saying horrible things about... especially, like, Natsume, but, like... Oh, just kind of like, oh, the dirty Japan. Just, like, terrible. I wish they were more tolerant. So the court will hear you, madam. At least the judge is, like, he's cool. Go ahead, Mrs. Otto, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. Yeah, we haven't even got a chance to look at it, or, like, investigate it, or anything. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? Like, right away you can tell something's up with that book. Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. It's the book. It's gotta be the book. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. Okay, point taken. Let's do it right now. Maybe I'm going too quick on this, but... It's burned! It's burned! And what else was burned? The rug at, what's-his-face's place. Oh my goodness. I had a feeling there was something fishy about that guy. He might have something to do with this, and that's why his wife made... Oh, look at this. Oh, the book has been badly burned. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. Is the fact that he's like, he makes it seem like, oh, I'm an old guy and I can't move around very much and stuff. He must have been at the scene of the crime or the book, and he put the book in her hand to, for some reason, I'm guessing? I don't know. What's the reason for this? I have a feeling he's got something to do with it, but I just don't know what. Yes, a book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Yes. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the big thing, but... Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride. I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all, so it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? Yes! Oh shit! That's right! And he's all about, like, lions too, right? I think I've heard of a book by that name before. And very recently, too. That's right, he had a receipt, didn't he? It's a title I recognize, too, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh my god, we got it, we got it, we got it, we got it, we got it. Oh, the wife is gonna have to answer for that on the jury. I understand, and thank you, Miss Susato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has been overlooked.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So, I must insist you elaborate, Counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes. Yeah, we already know what it is. I think you might be right. So, Counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case which the fourth book conceals? Wait, I literally just was able to turn it before. How do I do that? There we go. I'm like, my goodness. There we go.
Got it!
I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious. It's been burnt to a crisp. So, we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Oh. Were I to concede to the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? A charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting you can ascertain from the fire damage the sorry tome has suffered? Oh! No! I clicked too fast! No, I clicked too fast! Ah, damn it. No, damn it. Ah, I know this is wrong. The burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the shop from which it was purchased. No. What on earth do you mean? To have sold a half-burnt and unreadable book suggests us we can be quite sure that the establishment it came from is a terrible bookshop. Oh god, this is embarrassing. Indeed. That's right. A terrible one. Oh, Zeke's just like, oh my gosh, I was worried for a second you'd say something smart. A valid conclusion. And then that ends the trial. Oh good, everyone seems to agree. Maybe I'm onto something here. If I may, Mr. Naruhodo, that was stupid. I most certainly cannot agree. No, you're right. Oh, I almost got through this without making a mistake. A copy of the Lion's Pride that just recently suffered damage from a fire. Why do I feel as though I know about this book already from somewhere? Oh my gosh, okay. Let's not go too fast this time. Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth about the book's owner. I beg your pardon? But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor after all. It's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly... Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. Well, this is gonna be bad. If I accuse him, his wife is obviously... Like, that's already one jury member that is not going to be swayed. So, or maybe she can be removed if she knew something about the book. And she can be seen as, like, not, a neutral party. That's his name, John Garadeb. He's only 46? Wow. I thought he was much older. Damn. Hold on, let me just check the ages of everybody. 21, 23. They look even younger than that. Okay, anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked here.
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb, the landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen... Yes, exactly, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself. And I know that they said that she was chosen for jury duty beforehand. I almost feel like, what's his face? The court, the Chief Justice? I feel like he's stacking the courts against me on purpose. I don't know. I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house? I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused landlady, you say. You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection.
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. Oh, did she maybe run over and... I don't know. I was going to say, like, maybe... She, like, the book was burned, but I'm just like, why would the book be put in her hand? Was that her trying to get rid of, like, the evidence, like, once she realized that she had burned his precious book? But I feel like Garadeb already knew about that, but then why would she put it in the hand of this random woman on the streets? I don't know. I am so lost on how this happened and why. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. He did say that his bookshelf was burned, so he knew, obviously, his book was burned. So I don't think she was trying to hide the evidence of her burning that book. Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of all, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. That's right, he did mention that. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title that's the subject of this debate. Oh dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently, she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Raleigh? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. Now, I was like, be married a couple of years and see how you feel about that. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, backed against the wall, under heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books incoming, 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books. Oh, so one of the books fell out, like, it went out the window? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
Wow. Never would have expected that it went out the window. I thought it was placed there. No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. And there's no report of the Garadeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadeb household. But is it not conceivable the window was open at the time, and not even remotely? Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies... I mean, I live in Canada, and, like, my husband doesn't like it, but even when, like, in winter time, I like to have the window open a smidge. I liked it to be super cold, and then I just like to, like, burrow myself in blankets. That's just how I roll. So, I'm not gonna say it's completely inconceivable. Plus, if there's a fire, wouldn't you open the window to, like, try and get the smoke out? No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate this scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garredev's wife? It seems a little unlikely that it happened to land perfectly in her hand, though. Unless the woman, like, picked it up? Maybe she picked up the book and then got stricken? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Claiming our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly. Implying I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you, that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud, simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Too right, oh no. Here we go. How long have we sat here now, listening to this nippity spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But, think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene, too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me. Sorry? What's that? Well, it would appear the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. God damn it. No, we should be able to bring him to the stand and question him. What's your position, Lord Van Zeeks? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Oh, damn! If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. Or better yet, let's bring Sholmes. Oh, I want Sholmes on the stand so bad. Please let me have this, please. What? No, forgive the discourtesy this time? Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear. Well,
Guilty.
that's no good. Well, that's not good.
Guilty.
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 I don't suppose I could get another summation, please? No? Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mrs. Otto? Have you forgot? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. Well, like I said, the wife, Garredev, is she's not gonna be convinced very easily. What's his face? The baker, he hates me too. So that's not good. My lord, the defense asked to exercise its right to a summation examination. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve? I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Alright, so that is going to end part 1 of this trial. And it's so frustrating. It's just, it's so frustrating that it feels like the jury is pitted against me and everything seems to be going wrong, but I'm hoping we can get Gerdeb on, on the stand. We're gonna be able to convince these people. We do it once, we do it again, and I'm praying, please let Sholmes, please let him be able to be on trial, or not on trial, but like, let me be able to cross-examine him. That would be my dream. But there's so many questions still left, like, how did that book end up in her hand? We know Natsume is not the real murderer, so who is it? I have a feeling it's something to do with that weird guy, that weird, like, actor, Shakespearean actor. Like, he hasn't come up yet. For him to just be, like, he's also one of the tenants at Gerdeb's place, I don't feel like that's a coincidence. I feel like he's going to come up at some point. I want to see what his whole deal is. But so far, this has been a really good trial. I'm excited to see, hopefully get some answers next episode. We will wait and see. I don't know how long this trial is. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, bye. Special shout out to my top tier patrons: Nana, Sparky, Dumbass Loser, Tequila Mockingbird, Puncake G, Joel Ostman, Harry Gazif, Asborn Kennedy, Icognito, and Jared Fan.